Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Sunday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Batters Rugby Clinic, Hutco Roofing, HutcoRoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProCharge, ProCharge, EV.com. All right, y'all. Tigers win. LSU 34-31 over Arkansas. By the hardest, LSU gets it done. And I think after last night, I have to never, ever again talk about where this game falls on the calendar and just acknowledge that you are always going to get Arkansas's best swing. And that game, unless if you have Joe Burrow, is just never going to be easy. So, hat tip to Arkansas. KJ Jefferson is a great player. I'll be glad when he is no longer there. He's a great player. I mean, if you saw on the graphic on the game last night, tied Matt Jones's career touchdown record at Arkansas. 77 career touchdowns accounted for him. That's a record that stood for 20 years. So, speaks to longevity and success during that period. So anyway, but the Tigers get it done, 34-31, and offense started slow, and subsequently just they were never stopped. You know, after going punt, interception, punt, LSU went field goal, touchdown, game-winning field goal. Arkansas never got to stop again. So, that was obviously what won it, as the offense got in gear. And, LSU never stopped Arkansas either. But what turned the game was obviously the back-to-back touchdowns at the end of the first half and the start of the second half, and then holding Arkansas to a field goal on its first possession of the second half, which allowed LSU to build its lead to 8, and then Arkansas was playing. You just turned the table, and Arkansas was playing catch-up the rest of the way. So not a lot of defense in that one, and that's kind of what we talked about before the season started. I didn't think this team was going to be great on defense, but you didn't have to be, because I thought they were going to be great on offense. And so far, aside from the fourth quarter against Florida State, this offense has been pretty darn unstoppable. So, you forget they put up 300 yards of offense in the first half against Florida State. They just had a couple of possessions inside the 10 where they came away with no points. How different is that game if LSU manages to score there? Dramatically different. You scored on 10 out of 10 possessions against Grambling. You were awesome last week against Mississippi State. And then after the slow start, they literally never stopped you again. And you finish on a day where you were sluggish, right, offensively. A day where you were sluggish, which, in the first 3 drives, or how people are going to describe Jaden was inaccurate. He was. I mean, Jaden had a rough start to that game. You still put up 509 yards of offense, and you scored 34 points. And, I mean, you would have scored a touchdown at the end, but for the way you played it, running out the clock to settle for the field goal, which is fine. But, I mean, that very easily could have been 30, probably should have been 38 if you had scored the touchdown at the end, but whatever. 320 passing, 189 rushing, on a bad day. On a bad day offensively, you put up 34 points and 509 yards. This offense is really, really good, y'all. I mean, I think they are the best offense in the SEC, and I'm not sure that I have a close second right now. So, anyway, but yeah, the defense is what it is. You just, for so many years, we became accustomed to seeing LSU have the best defensive backs in football, where you could just say, hey, Peterson, you got him. Claiborne, you got him. Derek Stingley, you got him. Fulton, you got him. Tre'Davious White, you got him. Dante Jackson, you got him. They could play man coverage because their guys were better. And they're not now. So it complicates what you're trying to do defensively. So, how much better can this team get defensively as the season goes along is a big question. And I think there's just going to be some games where the matchup is more favorable toward LSU, like last week against Mississippi State. But there's going to be days where you face an offense like Arkansas, and it's going to be a struggle because KJ's that good, and they have some really good receivers, and Dan Enos has a good concept and all that stuff. Anyway, so, all right, fire away with what you got. Of course, we did Whiskey and Wine last night, T-Bob and I, so thanks to everybody who watched, as always. And, we'll kind of go through the game for those that did. I understand not everybody's down for the adult language and content on Whiskey and Wine, but it's still, it's so interesting to me, like, how sometimes, so just, I guess for the benefit of those that don't know, T-Bob and I do a show called Whiskey and Wine after every LSU game. And we do it at Don Juan Cigar Bar, and it's an adult language. So, there's cursing. It's just, the concept is, if you were sitting at a cigar bar with your friends talking about the game, what would it sound like? That's the concept. And so I get it's not for everybody. So this is the more family-friendly version of a post-game show. But even still, despite the fact that some people are like, oh, it's too much cursing, which is respect. No judgment, whatever. But I look at the numbers every week for Whiskey and Wine, and it literally does a 10x multiple on the traditional post-game show. It's crazy. Anyway, okay. Notes. Thought the interceptions back-to-back were big. Thought Malik Neighbors was awesome in this game. Logan Diggs continues to just show why he's the best running back on this team. He had nearly 100 yards, and most of it was in the second half. Diggs 14 for 97. Most of Diggs' carries, most of all that came in the second half. Really, the only rushing offense she even attempted in the first half was the 41-yard run by Josh Williams, which set up your first score. As I mentioned, Malik Neighbors was awesome last night again. So was Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas 5 for 133 and 2 scores, but Malik came up with some really. Brian Thomas had the 2 big plays, end of the first half, start of the second half, which kind of broke you through, right? He had the touchdown at the end of the first half, which brought you within 13-10. And then 3 plays into the second half, you went 13 yards to Neighbors, Diggs 13-yard run, then 49-yard touchdown to Brian Thomas. That was the one that it was a free play, but it got deflected and Bob Thomas caught it and got in. So 17-13, and you never trailed again. So, excuse me. All right, let's say some good morning, see what y'all got. By the way, the real quick, the link that I have pinned today is the HUDCO Google review link. Just very, very, very quick story, a long story short. Google kind of, I'm not going to say they messed us over, but in a way they did. So because there's a Baton Rouge office and a Bossier office, we used to have one Google review for the whole company. They split them. So all the reviews that we had went to the Bossier office, which is fine. They were there first. I get it. But so the Baton Rouge office lost a lot of Google reviews. So if you would, when you have a second, just please click the link and leave us a 5-star Google review. I would greatly appreciate it. So that would be great. So we can kind of build back up our numbers, especially, and if we have helped you in any capacity, but we'd appreciate it. So okay, anyway, all right. Let's say some good mornings. Trivia Carter, Brad David, good morning. Bo Jax, good morning. Come on now. Let's see. Can we talk about how slow and out of shape Mason Smith looks? Jordan Jefferson needs to be started with Mason rotating in. Womack needs more snaps as well. So I think, and I do try to train my eye on Mason from time to time. One of the things that I notice is when he's in the game, he's definitely eating up double teams. He's eating up a lot of double teams, and that and the objective there is to free up other guys to make plays, which he does. It's been great for the linebackers. The other thing too is I think Mason Smith is still getting back into football shape. And the guy didn't play football for, in a game really for almost 2 years. So it's pretty clear that they're still limiting his snaps. And I think one of the real benefits is they've got a great rotation. So to your point about who starts, I think is largely irrelevant. It's about your rotation and having fresh bodies in there. LSU started the game by forcing a 3-and-out with Mason Smith in there. So I don't know that I would go so far as say you need to make that change there. But Jordan Jefferson's been great. That second wave with Jacoby and Guillory, I don't know if y'all noticed, but Paris Shand, who's the Arizona transfer, who we saw, he came in as a tackle. They played him at that big end behind Savion. Now they moved him back into tackle. And actually some of the packages they do is just they'll move him inside to get more speed on the field. You mentioned Deshaun Womack. Womack came up with a big play. The play where his helmet came off and he came up with a sack. That was a huge sequence in the second half, by the way. So after LSU took the lead 17-13, Arkansas gets the ball. They're driving. It looks like LSU gets the stop. They fake the field goal, so they got first down at the 11. Mekhi Wingo comes up with a huge play on first down. It's 2nd and 8 from the 9. Weeks almost, he blitzes and flushes KJ, and then Wingo cleans it up and gets the sack. So now it's 3rd and 16 back at the 17-yard line, and Deshaun Womack gets the sack. That's where his helmet came off. The reason that was so massive is because it looked like they were going in for a score to retake the lead. Instead, you hold them to a field goal, and you still have the lead 17-16. Then LSU gets the ball, and this is where Malik scored his first touchdown. And you go up 24-16, so you're up 8. And that's where it felt like you were in complete control. But anyway, the point being, Womack had a big play in that sequence. But what you're seeing with Womack is when they want so that was a third. Womack was on the field on 3rd and 16. So whenever they're in down and distance like that where they want rushers on the field, they'll put Womack at left end. Braden Swinson is in a jack. Perkins is on the field. And they'll kick Paris Shand inside. So you've got like 4 legit speed rushers on the field. And that's tough to handle. So you give up a little size, they'll move Savion inside as well. So you have a whole bunch of really athletic edge rushers on the field, which is that's pretty formidable. But they found his role. Womack, they're going to make Womack into Savion Jones, right into that big end. He's just a little light right now. And we talked about that all throughout camp. Is he's just a little light to help in run defense right now. But the thing he can do is he's got a good get off, so he can rush. No Sweat Sports, what's going on? Nick Newbill, Preston Francis. Where was the D-line push? Brother. LSU finished with 4 sacks, 6 TFLs, 3 passes defended. Felt like they were living in the backfield in that game. The problem is KJ Jefferson's a freak show, and he's a 6'3", 255-pound dude who's got great athleticism as well. Excuse me. So, he cleans up a lot of blocking mistakes. Thought LSU's defensive line was awesome in this game. They lived in the backfield. Just KJ Jefferson finds a way to make. Think about that. The 59-yard touchdown where LSU goes up 24-16, and then they come right back and score. On the play, this was after the Swinson play where Swinson had hit KJ, and they had back-to-back false starts, so it's 1st and 20. Braden Swinson hits KJ's arm. It looks like a fumble. I think some of y'all said that the explanation was there wasn't a clear recovery, which is stupid because obviously there was, and LSU got picked up the ball. So you have 2nd and 20, and you're pressuring KJ, and he ends up rolling right, avoiding the pressure almost to the sideline. He's directing traffic, and Zy Alexander leaves his man and comes running up toward KJ and the receiver breaks downfield and KJ hits him for a 59-yard touchdown. Like, D-line push was great. KJ Jefferson just made a great play because he's a great player. Jesse Brown thought roughing the passer on Perkins was a little excessive. I hate the call. I hate the rule. I totally understand your point. A lot of people made that point of view last night as well. But we live in an era now where you cannot hit quarterbacks. The ball was out, let up. The ball was out, let up. Period. Like, don't give them a reason to throw the flag. When you knock a quarterback to the ground after the ball is out, the ref has an opportunity to throw the flag. So yes, I hate the rough, and the roughing was huge. You're off. It's third. At that point of the game, you're up 31-24. This was after Neighbors scored in the corner of the end zone. On 2nd and 17, they threw the fade in the back of the end zone. Beautiful ball by Jaden, dropped it in a bucket, and Malik made an awesome catch. Awesome catch, back line of the end zone, dragged his foot, was awesome. Great throw, great catch. You're up 31-24. It looks like they had a 37-yard touchdown come off the board because of holding. So they're sitting there with 3rd and 18, and you're off the field. I mean, and they're at the 22-yard line. It's 3rd and 18 from the 22 with about 5:30 to play. They're kicking a field goal there. They're not going for it on 3rd and 18 from the 22. Like, anyway, point being, you're off the field. Let up. Like, so I hate the call. I hate the rule. I hate all of it. Like, it's the same as targeting. I understand the spirit of the rule. You're trying to eliminate dangerous plays. You're trying to protect quarterbacks. I get that. I get the spirit of it. But we have gone to a place now where it's excessive. Like, in the NFL, if you graze a quarterback on the helmet, it's a roughing penalty. Like, but it's the rule, so you have to know that and be smart and respect it. So anyway, Craig Dugas, Matt, have you ever sat on a broken toilet seat? That's a reference to something T-Bob said last night. I don't know how we got talking about toilet seats last night, but anyway. Kelly Gross, Bubba Smith, Bill Schmid, good morning. Who dat? Steve Scott, morning from Anaheim. Here with my daughter for dance convention. We took over the Hilton Bar last night. Lots of LSU fans repped. Huge win. Awesome. Vernell Thomas, good morning. Should we be worried about defensive coordinators on the LSU staff? So, Jason Horn, Clifford Moore, Jeff McKithen, what's going on? Okay. I'll address because a lot of people, so you always look for a fall guy, right? Things go wrong and you say, okay, who can we blame? If I had, and I was listening to that last night actually post-game to Handy and Richard Dixon when I was driving home, and Dixon made this comment. And we talked about it a little bit on Whiskey and Wine as well. I have trouble blaming Matt House completely because, like, you can only cook the meal with the ingredients you have. And the issue last night was LSU was playing a lot of soft zone. And so Arkansas and KJ Jefferson took advantage of that soft zone. And they converted a lot of third downs. They were there were 12, hang on, where is it? Here you go. They were 8 of 13 on third down. They put up 426 yards. Like, time and again, they kept, converting. But they played a lot of man against Florida State, and you saw how that went. They couldn't run with Keon Coleman. They couldn't run with Johnny Wilson. And that's, we talked about all this week, that's the best group of receivers Arkansas has had since I think they had, Kobe Hamilton and Joe Adams and all that group. So, I mean, what do? You just don't have good cornerbacks. You don't have, we are so we are so conditioned to think LSU's cornerbacks can run with anybody and make plays. And you got a firsthand lesson against Florida State how inadequate this team is at cornerback. Period. So what do you do? I mean, if you're Matt House, I get it. You say, okay, well, we're going to play zone, and we're going to try to tackle really well, and maybe you complete the ball for 8 yards, but what we need to do is make sure 8 doesn't turn into 38. And so, like, look at KJ Jefferson last night. 20 of 31 for 289. Jaden was 20 of 29 for 320. So Jaden had one fewer completion and had 31 more yards than KJ did. I mean, there's different ways to skin a cat, but like you saw time and again, LSU's receivers, Brian Thomas on the 2 touchdowns, beat man coverage. Even the second one that was deflected, he had safety help, and he caught the ball off the deflection. In the first half, on the same drive, Jaden missed 2 deep balls to Malik and to Brian Thomas that both would have been touchdowns on man coverage. So, like, long way of answering the question. I don't know if I am, but I get the need to blame someone. Okay, like, it's going badly. Why is it going badly? You got to coach him better. I get that. The reality is you don't have Derek Stingley. Like, your best cornerback is Zy Alexander. For all the talk about Denver Harris, and I get why he's playing. I mean, it's the thing we've talked about forever. Like, he's a great athlete, but Brian Kelly even told you, like, Denver Harris needs to learn zone concepts. All he's ever done is man coverage. Well, you tried man coverage against Grambling, and he got mossed twice against Grambling. Your most athletic guy, who Brian Kelly, by his own definition, said he gets off the bus trying to press you. Like, he couldn't hang against Grambling's receivers. So, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what you do if you're Matt House. I think what you're doing is right. Like, you try to create pressure because your strength is in your front 7. You try to pressure the quarterback, affect throws, and play, a zone on the back end. And if they complete passes, you tackle. And you make them go 10, 12 plays. You don't give up. Look at LSU scoring drives. That's probably the better thing to look at. So, like, LSU's scoring drives, the field goal was 8 plays, 68 yards. 3 plays, 75 yards. 3 plays, 75 yards. 9 plays, 75 yards. 10 plays, 75 yards. 9 plays, 72 yards. But they got back in the game with 3 plays, 75 yards by hitting deep balls. Long way of answering it. Anyway, I mean, I get it. I get the frustration defensively. I totally, because we're used to seeing LSU's defense being great, and they're not right now. But it's as much to do with your personnel or lack thereof in the secondary as anything. Jesse Brown. Oh, sorry about that one. Dave Vendur, ML Fody. Did you see Notre Dame with 10 men on the field? I did. The last play of the game. Oh my God. It was 2 plays. They had 10 men on the field in 2 plays. Cortland Jacob, good morning. Brian Penn, good morning. Hunter Fournette, I think Womack has earned himself more snaps. Hunter, excuse me. I think it's again, it's situational. I think we talked about that a little bit if you're here. I remember I have this image still in my head of watching Womack in fall camp when they were doing the offensive line and defensive line were doing combo drills. And Womack was just getting manhandled. He's just not big enough to handle offensive linemen against the run. Like, he can't hold his ground against in the run game. But when you have an offensive lineman getting back in his seat in pass protection, and Womack can just be a super athlete and go get him, then yes. I mean, yes, absolutely. Oh man, where did all my comments? Oh no. Where did all my comments go? All right, y'all, please smash that like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Palermo Trapani, teams are different week to week. Will Rogers threw 489 against South Carolina. Well, they changed up their approach. But yes, Randall Offrecht, everybody says Jefferson is just a running quarterback. Look like he can throw the ball. Randall, I don't know who said Jefferson is just a running quarterback. He's got a great arm and he can sling it and he's an accurate passer. He's just really challenging because when he does tuck it and run, he's a freight train at 6'3", 255. Cortland, let's see. People complain Jaden doesn't just toss the ball up for his wide receivers to go get it. When he did on the free play, everyone complains it was underthrown. That's why, Cortland, it's not worth having the Jaden conversation anymore. Like, when you put up 34 points and 500 yards of offense and you score on every possession after the first three and people complain, like, you'll never convince those people of anything. So you just ignore them. You don't continue to try to convince them. You just hope that in some way they can enjoy the season, because there's going to be a lot of wins this season, a lot of good moments. Phil Stevens, most unremarkable win, LSU, Florida State, Ohio State. Unremarkable? I thought all three games are pretty remarkable. Bailey C, is this the worst quarterback? I'm sorry, DB group since Saban guys were wide open. Since Saban guys were wide open. The weird thing is, 2008 was atrocious. And I think you also forget about the Pelini year in 2020. And Stingley was hurt a lot in 2020. Ricks was a true freshman starting in 2020. You were young that year. You had talent, but you were really young in 2020. 2008 and 2020, I'd say, were the years that were really, really bad. Brian Pike, best decision Brian Kelly's in all season, giving Lacey less playing time. It's a breath of fresh air, not seeing him drop a 7-yard slant. Another big thing, obviously, is you had Mason Taylor back yesterday. I know he didn't play wide receiver, but just in whatever formations that you were in. You saw more Aaron Anderson last night. He caught a couple of passes. One really big one, too, for 9 yards. I think it was a third down conversion. Let's see if I can find it. They ran the shovel pass with him, where he almost broke it. God, he almost broke it. When he comes in motion, they shotgun snap and they shovel to him. He only got 5 yards on it, but he almost broke that. Where's the other one? He had another one, too. It was like 9-yard reception. I'm trying to find it. I'm looking quickly, y'all. Sorry. Where was it? I can't find it. That's in there somewhere. Anyway, okay. Please smash that like button. 300 watching live on YouTube. Thank y'all so much. If you're new, please subscribe up to the channel. Appreciate y'all for being there. As always, shout out to Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing. Need orthopedics, go to Brock. After hours clinics open. Hudco. I got Hudco. By the way, I explained when we started. I got the Hudco Google review pinned in the chat. Long story short, Google split up our reviews for Bossier and Baton Rouge offices. So the Baton Rouge office, they were always combined. Now they're split, and so the Baton Rouge office basically has no Google reviews. So if you could just take just a quick second, just when you have a moment, just click that link and leave us a 5-star review. I'd really appreciate it. Michael 32, Jefferson's really good. How about the Palermo Trapani said LSU had 500 plus yards for the 10th time in 18 games under Brian Kelly. Not bad for Mike Denbrock. And I know I hear some of the complaints about Denbrock. I don't get it. LSU's offense, I was thinking about this last night after Don Juan. You realize we went through a decade of LSU struggling to complete a forward pass. It was always like a punchline. And then, of course, the Burrow era came, and 2019 was awesome, and then just conceptually everything changed. But think about what it was like for a decade, and think about what you saw last night. where LSU is, like, you were never concerned about LSU's ability. Like, even after Arkansas tied the game at 31, after the Perkins roughing, the first play, Malik Neighbors right side, 36 yards. You're like, and just like that, one play, you're at the Arkansas 39, and you know you're going to win the game because you're going to bleed the clock. They're out of timeouts. You're going to bleed the clock and win the game. It's like, I have no doubts about the LSU offense. That's a huge hat tip to Mike Denbrock. Like, I don't know what else some of y'all want. Let's see. Forrest Wilkinson, the Daniels to Neighbors connection is looking like one of the best in the country. It's true. Patrick Berglass, what kicks are you rocking? I have slippers on right now. Also, what is your take on Saints-Packers spread going to Green Bay -1? I picked the Saints 23-20 with almost no confidence whatsoever because, especially in the NFL, I'm very big on the spot. And the Saints, short week after Monday Night Football, going on the road after being on the road for Monday Night Football, I hate this spot. I absolutely hate this spot. I told y'all over the last 4 years in the NFL, teams on a short week after Monday Night Football win about 45% of the time. And that's not even considering splits of having to go on the road and then on the road after being on the road for Monday Night Football. So I hate this spot for New Orleans. But Green Bay's without David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Jones, Christian Watson. You're without two offensive linemen, your best running back, best receiver, and you got a young quarterback. Against that Saints defense, I think the Saints with a veteran quarterback will protect the ball and find a way to go up there and steal a win. So Saints 23-20, but I give that pick with very, very, very little confidence. Thad Landry, Courtney Storr, Dana Berthelot, good morning. On to the next one. Scott Anderson, morning, Matt. How you feel about the timeout at the end of the game on third down? Okay. I'm glad you brought that up, Scott, because hand in air, I missed this last night. And I'll admit, it's one of the downsides of trying to watch the game for the second half. It's why I watched the first half at home and the second half at Don Juan, because we start right when the game ends. But it's loud. While the sound is on in Don Juan, it's hard to hear everything, and there's just a lot of commotion, so sometimes I miss things. I missed LSU's first timeout, and I chart every play of the game, and I have my notes and my notations, and I know how I'll mark timeouts. Like Arkansas, on its first possession of the second half, called 2 timeouts. They called a timeout on the 4th and 2. They put their offense out there, called the timeout, came back out with the field goal unit and faked it. On the same drive, before 3rd and 16, they called a timeout, the play before the Deshaun Womack sack. So they had 2 timeouts on their first drive. So, point is, like, I chart everything. Penalties, timeouts, all of it. And I missed LSU's first timeout. I don't know where they called it. So, real time, I thought they had 3 timeouts, so I didn't think anything of it. I thought they'd call timeout first down, second down, then run the ball on third down and call timeout as the clock bled. And they threw the pass, and I'm going, what? Why not just run the ball? And if he scores a touchdown, great. If not, you let the clock bleed. And T-Ball was like, no, they didn't have any timeouts. So I only charted the timeout on first down and second down. I missed their third timeout. So hang on one second, y'all. I'm coming back to that point because that's very significant. Okay, I want to finish that point. So my apologies. Thank you for watching. Please smash the like button on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. So that was nearly Brian Kelly's biggest brain fart so far at LSU. So Arkansas has no timeouts. They cannot stop the clock. LSU runs Logan Diggs on first down and calls a timeout. Their second timeout. LSU runs on second down. There was 59 seconds left. They run the play, bleed the clock, and call their second timeout. Call their third timeout. I'm sorry, they call their final timeout after second down. So you have no timeouts. It's third down. Clock is stopped. Keep in mind, you cannot stop the clock now. You cannot stop the clock. It's third down, and you're in a shotgun. And so they very just quickly snap, throw, and I'm sure what Brian Kelly told Jaden was, hey, look, if the play is there, then throw the touchdown. If not, throw it out of the end zone, and we'll kick the field goal. LSU called that timeout, their third timeout, with 11 seconds to play in the game. Point being, what if Jaden slips? What if it's a bad snap? What if he fumbles the snap and goes to the ground and he's down? What if any number of things happen in that moment that cause you not to get that play off the way you did? I'm not saying that they're highly likely scenarios, but they're possible scenarios that happen in the game, which is why you keep that third timeout for third down before the field goal. So you could have bled it all the way down, call the timeout after run the ball on third down, call the timeout, and then kick the field goal. Or you score on third down with the run. Or take a knee and then set up the field goal. But burning your last timeout on second down was an egregious error by Brian Kelly. And is probably, I would say, unless if there's something else you all can remember, is probably the biggest brain fart that he's had. Now, I did not listen to his postgame yet. I'll go listen to it today. I don't know if he was asked about that, if he said anything about that. But, man, not keeping that final timeout for third down is a little stunning. And again, I didn't see it real time because I thought I need to go back and comb through the play-by-play to see where LSU took its first timeout. But man, oh man, that's something. That was something. Like, looking at it back now in hindsight, to think of all that could have gone wrong in that situation, not good. Not a great thing. Let's see. No, so Jeff said, look, if the play call is a throwaway and burn time, there's very little risk. Right, Jeff. Unless there's a low snap. What if Jaden slips and falls down? What if he drops the ball and goes down to pick it up and he's on a knee and then he's down? Like, you do not leave yourself any margin. That's the problem. So anyway, the point, look, it worked. It all worked out. But the problem being, you left yourself no margin. Like, you cannot have that. What if the snap rolls to him? What if the snap goes 20 yards over his head? Like, that's the problem. Anyway. Randall watching the Arkansas tight end run wide open in the secondary was crazy. They're playing soft zone. It's what you do when you don't have corners that can cover. Robert Potts, Jeff G, Bo Revere, Juan, what's going on, man? Jets plus 2.5. Your thoughts, Juan? I'll be listening to Jimmy Ott's Football Sunday in a little bit, and whatever Jimmy and his band of merry handicappers give, that's what I play. After last year, I don't even mess around trying to do it myself anymore. Those guys last year hit it like a 70% clip on the NFL. I'm just, I listen, whatever picks they give on the Cappers Recap, that's what I play. Kelly's doing for Perkins what Jay did for Trey in baseball, showing he can do more than rush the passer. So that's not exactly true, Bo. Um, um, Harold Perkins wanted, so I mean, I'm confident saying this out. Harold Perkins wanted to play middle. He wanted to play off-ball linebacker. And by the way, he's not playing off-ball linebacker anymore. Sometimes he will line up as the Sam. So on the strong side linebacker. But that's out of necessity because if you have Braden Swinson as your jack, then you have to put Harold Perkins somewhere. So they're just being very creative in the way that they line him up, move him. And sometimes, yes, the way teams scheme, they are going to scheme him out the box and he's going to be in coverage. That's just how that's going to go. But if you want Harold Perkins on the field, then that's what you have to do. That's a better option than putting him at Mike and having him be in the role Whit Weeks is in, where Whit Weeks is just showing you, even as a true freshman, how dramatically better someone can play at that position when they know how to shoot gaps, how to shed blocks, how to defend the run, how to turn and cover. Like, Whit Weeks is last night Whit Weeks was the best player in your defense. I don't even know that's debatable. Major Burns had 12 tackles, and Whit had 9, I think. But a lot of Burns' tackles were obviously coming down from the box as a safety when they were in dime. Penn had 12 as well. But Whit Weeks influenced so much. Like I just told you, the on that huge sequence in the start of the second half, Whit Weeks is the one that flushed KJ and forced him into the sack. Wingo got the sack, but Whit Weeks made that play. Excuse me. So anyway, so Bo, that Harold Perkins. I'm confident saying this now. Harold Perkins is the one that wanted to play inside. He wanted to show he could be a 3-down linebacker. He wanted to be Devin White, and I think it took one game to realize, man, that is going to be a season-long progression trying to get up to speed to where you're comfortable playing that position. And playing that position isn't even your best, the best way, that doesn't accentuate your skill set. So, anyway. Let's see. John Doucette, Arkansas receivers had really good route concepts. Well done, John. Cortland. So they called timeout after they got the first down. Hang on, let me go look. I have the play-by-play right here. I don't mean to bore y'all with this because I'm sure many of you don't care. But I'm trying to see where that first timeout was. So they called a timeout. Oh, after the Logan Diggs run. There it is. Okay. So they converted 3rd and 4. Malik Neighbors caught the five-yard reception on the little sit-down route. Then on first down, Logan Diggs ran for 21 yards. So Logan ran for 21 yards. They bled it all the way down. Or they bled it to 144 and called their first timeout. Oh, my God. And then Diggs ran for 3 yards. They called timeout on first down, and then they called it after second down as well. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. What a gigantic brain fart, y'all. Oh, my God. Ugh. How in the world do you run that third down play without a timeout? Ugh. I mean, anything on first down before calling a timeout. Take a knee. Let 40 more seconds run. Wow. Man, oh man. Let me add that to my chart. So they called the timeout after the Diggs run. Oh, that's why. Okay, that's why. That's why. I know I did it now. Because the way I chart it, it looks like it's after the play. It should have been back to back there, boom, then there, then after Diggs. Got it. Okay. Got it. Y'all, that is a woo. That is a really big mistake by Brian Kelly. Like that is a really big clock, man. I am very eager now to hear the explanation again. I don't know if anybody asked post game, but I am very, very eager to see it. Zachary Snyder, morning, Matt. With the emergence of Weeks, Womack, Penn, would you get Spates back? Could Perkins play a Viper position? Listen, here's the thing. Perkins, the idea is to play Perkins in the same role he played a year ago, which is what he's doing. But you got to remember, I think if you were to go back and watch Perkins a year ago, what he's doing now is very similar to what he did last year. Because you had B.J. Ojolari at Jack. And so the reason he wasn't playing early in the season, and Matt House and Brian Kelly talked about this, was because you had Ojolari on the field, so you couldn't justify taking Ojolari off to put Perkins on. So it's like, how do you get them both on the field? Well, you had Ali Gay at the big end at the other spot, so you had to play him in that sort of nickel Sam role, which is what he's still playing. And there's times where teams with numbers are going to force Perkins into coverage. That's just how it's going to be, which is another reason I think why you're seeing LSU play a lot of dime, which is putting Major Burns in the box because he's better against the run and putting Ryan Yates at free safety. We saw that last week, and it worked really well. I'm not saying I want Harold Perkins in pass coverage a bunch, but there's going to be formations where they have more guys going out on routes that he's going to have to go cover. So if you're going to have him in that nickel Sam role, which is what he's got to play, there's going to be times he covers. I'd rather him doing that than playing, off-ball linebacker as a Mike. So, and if you want, and Braden Swinson's playing awesome, so I want Braden Swinson in there at the Jack. So, I don't have complaints. I mean, I think we get we remember the big plays Harold Perkins made a year ago. Like Perkins had a sack right before half. He had the pressure on KJ where he got the roughing. But if you look at Perkins a year ago, all right, so let's look at his sack numbers. He had a sack and a half against Mississippi State. So none against Florida State, none against Southern. Sack and a half against Mississippi State. None against New Mexico, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida. One sack against Ole Miss, and one TFL. But Lane Kiffin said that's when the game changed. I mean, one sack, one TFL. But it was the way he influenced the game. Alabama, one sack, one TFL. But the pressure that he had on Bryce Young, we've seen the highlight of the sack so many times where he's pressuring Bryce Young and he gets him, you think that was every play. He had a sack and a TFL. The Arkansas, 3 sacks, 3 TFLs, 2 forced fumbles. It was huge in that game. Well, the next week against UAB, 2 TFLs, no sacks. A&M, 1 TFL, no sacks. Against Georgia, made 10 tackles in the Georgia game, but had 1 tackle for loss, no sacks. Against Purdue, 3 tackles, 1.5 for a loss, 1 sack. I guess my point is it wasn't like he's out there putting up Will Anderson numbers. But when you constantly see the big plays, you just default to, the big game against Arkansas. He should be doing that every snap. That's just not how it works. So like if he has the 3 or 4 plays a game where he's affecting the game with a big rush, a sack, a forced fumble, like, that's kind of what you remember. I guess I don't like the way they're using him now looks a lot like the way they were using him last year. Even if you go watch the Arkansas game last year, one of the things Kendall Briles did really well last year against Arkansas, and look, clearly Perkins made a huge impact in that game because the 3 or 4 plays he made were all significant, forced fumbles and everything. The play where he got real low and bent the edge, like we've all seen that on highlight, but there were a lot of plays against Arkansas where Perkins was turning in coverage a year ago because they were forcing him out of the box with numbers. So, I guess I just don't have look, what they did with him against Florida State was a disaster. And that was at Perkins' own request. And I hate the fact that they spent the entire offseason, spring, fall camp, trying to turn him into an off-ball linebacker. But it was it's one of those things kind of like Russell Shepard. When Russell Shepard came here as the number 1 player in the country, dual threat, all that stuff, he wanted to play quarterback. And you could see from the first day of fall camp, Russell Shepard, as a passer, was never going to play quarterback in the SEC. Ever. It was never going to happen. But he wanted to try. So you essentially wasted a year trying to make him a quarterback when you knew it was never going to happen. But if that's what he wanted to get here, you had to give him that opportunity. You did. And then ultimately you converted him into a running back receiver, and he had a nice career. They played a long time in the NFL. So, I think it was similar with Harold. Like, you want to try, you gave him the opportunity to try. It didn't go well. Now he's back doing the thing that he does really well, and I think he'll play well. Corey Rogers, opposing coaches are going to watch film from yesterday's game. Their quarterback will step up in the pocket like KJ and eat us alive. The difference, Corey, is not everybody has a quarterback that's 6'3", 255 that can run like KJ Jefferson can. And, look at Will Rogers. Will Rogers was no threat to beat you with his feet. Jackson Dart, I don't think he's that guy that's gonna wreck you. Peyton Thorne, Robbie Ashford at Auburn, Brady Cook at Missouri. Those aren't the dudes that are gonna do it. Barry LeBeau, good morning. Let's see. Austin Kidder, what's up? Greg T, Antron Hemingway, good morning, y'all. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Randall said, does Brian Kelly have any good secondary players coming in? So because someone did ask this yesterday as well. Is there any hope to think the secondary can improve next year? Here's the optimist's point of view, okay? With the transfer portal, you can always improve immediately year to year. That's always a possibility with the portal. LSU went and tried to get Fentrell Cypress this year from Virginia. He picked Florida State. We've talked about it. Keon Coleman, Fentrell Cypress, Braden Fisk. 3 players that LSU wanted out of the portal that all picked Florida State. Florida State went with heavier NIL offers, and they all went there. If those 3 guys are playing at LSU, how dramatically different does this team look if you have those 3? You beat Florida State if you have those 3 guys. Anyway, but the point is, yes, you can go into the portal and go try to get the best cornerback in the portal available. The other thing, as reason for optimism, is all the guys that the 4 corners you brought in the portal this year: Denver Harris, J.K. Johnson, Zy Alexander, Deuce Chestnut. All of them are underclassmen that have more eligibility. So Zy and Deuce are juniors, J.K. Johnson, Denver Harris are sophomores. So J.K. Johnson will be healthy next year. Could he be sort of a missing link, sort of a magic unlock? I don't know. We didn't get to see him play. How much better will we continue to see Denver Harris get? Hopefully he continues to improve exponentially and lives up to the physical ability. If Zy Alexander and Deuce Chestnut both come back for another year, Now you're talking about guys that are even more experienced, and another year in the SEC, how much more do they improve? And then, of course, you could always go add transfer portal guys. Then beyond them, they really like Ashton Stamps. His time will come. Jeremiah Hughes, Ryan Robinson. These are all guys, that you signed that you feel like could grow and develop. And then on top of that, I should mention LaTerrence Welch as well. But it's a little disappointing that even in this secondary, he can't get on the field. And so when you see the secondary having the struggles they are and he can't get on the field, it makes you wonder, like, maybe he's just not him. And then you look at the class of 2024. I mean, your highest rated commitments are defensive backs. Deshaun McBride's your highest rated commitment. He's a safety out of Denham. Your second highest rated commit is Kai Bates, who's a cornerback out of Orlando. So when you've got, Kai Bates, Juwan Johnson out of Lafayette Christian's a 4-star corner, and Andre Evans out of Nashville is another corner, and then Wallace Foster out of Easton and New Orleans is another corner. So that's 4 cornerbacks that you got committed already for this year's class, on top of the guys that are all, in theory, coming back next year, and then you can go hit the portal as well. The point is, with all those numbers, you would hope to assume somebody will emerge, right? So, hope so. Napomo 1, Matt, curious to hear your opinion. Malik Neighbor is starting to look like Antonio Brown to me. Your thoughts? That's a pretty good comp. And listen, there was a time where Antonio Brown was the best receiver in the NFL. So I don't want to overspeak and try to compare Malik to a guy that at one point was the best receiver in the NFL. But the thing that you loved about Antonio Brown was he could sit down in the short intermediate area and with strong hands make tough catches, and he could also beat you over the top. And that's a rare skill set to be able to do both. Like, when I look at Michael Thomas, Michael Thomas is that physical receiver who catches everything within his radius, but he's not a deep threat. You look at a guy like Chris Olave, and Chris Olave is a guy that has big explosive potential, but I don't know that that's necessarily the guy that I want running shallow crosses and trying to go over the middle and all. Like, Jarvis Landry was that guy who didn't have the deep threat explosiveness, but man, it felt like he was so good at getting out of his breaks. Josh Reed was like that. Like, the thing about Jarvis, I remember talking about this with Mac Chiwilli over at Traction because he trained Jarvis. So Jarvis was so violent in his cuts. Like, the way that he would be running full speed, plant, and change direction, you just rarely ever saw that, which was how Jarvis was so great at creating separation, even though he wasn't, like, track fast. Malik has that, but he also has the big play potential, which Antonio Brown had. So that's a pretty good comp. Pretty good comp, actually. Casey Smith, any NFL games you're betting on today? Of course. But again, I'm going to tell y'all, so starting at about 11:15, 11:20. So again, listen to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. If you're not in Baton Rouge, listen on the app. So Jimmy Ott does Jimmy Ott's Football Sunday. And he has Andy Isco and Paul Nolan that join him at around 11:20-ish, maybe 11, right around there. And they each give 2 picks for the day. And then they do the Cappers Recap, where they do a recap of all the sports handicappers that Jimmy has on throughout the week, giving their best play of the day. And then Jimmy gives his 5-pack. So, you'll end up with 10 plays. And what I always do is I say, okay, where is their agreement? So if there's something like 3 or 4 handicappers that are all giving the same play, then I'll usually, hammer that. So, anyway. All right, y'all. Let's see. We'll go back down. Sorry, I had missed a bajillion comments, so I went down to the bottom, was going back up. Now I'll go back to my spot, and I'll work back from there. USMC Houdat, good morning. LSU fan, good morning. Of Corey Rogers, why are y'all complaining about Kelly's decision with the timeouts? You realize we won. Y'all want something to complain about. Not exactly, Corey. Like, one of the things I often say is winning mass deficiencies. Like, just because you won, you can't ignore if something goes wrong, because that thing that went wrong, if you ignore it because you won, it could pop up and bite you later. So that was an egregious error. Not saving a timeout for third down, that's a mistake. And you have to point that out. You can't just, that's like saying, hey, should we not complain about the secondary or the defense because they won? There are things you have to fix. Let's see, USMC, who dat? I underrated KJ until last night. My goodness, this kid have poise to stand in the pocket without fear. That's because I think people, and one of the reasons that I think that may be is LSU didn't see him a year ago. And so I think sometimes for fans, you only see the other team when they play your team. Like, I don't know if people are going out of their way to watch Arkansas a year ago. And KJ Jefferson's awesome. Like, he's awesome. David Woodard, Justin Jefferson needs a lot more playing time on the D-line. The dude's a monster. Well, Jordan Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's the receiver for the Vikings. But yes, Jordan Jefferson. He's great, and he's part of the rotation, and he's a physical dude, and he's a mean, physical, like, powerful dude on the interior. Like, that rotation is really good with him and Jacoby and Guillory coming behind Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo. You see Paris Shan rotating on the middle as well. It's nice to see them actually have a D-line rotation. Marine Sniper, sorry I'm late in case you haven't covered it. Andre Sam looked terrible. I know Sage got benched, but damn. I completely disagree. I thought Andre Sam had one of his better games last night. Nobody was good in coverage, if that's what you're talking about. But I thought Andre Sam against the run was really good. As a matter of fact, he on Arkansas' second possession, he came up with a big TFL on the first down. I think he's been a really physical player, very active player in coverage. He came up with an interception last night. Again, I realized nobody defensively was super awesome in this ball game, but Andre Sam had 7 tackles. He shared the TFL with Jordan Jefferson. So a half tackle for loss, had the pick. Burns and Penn each had 12 tackles. Weeks had 9. Sam had 7. Harris had 5. Perkins had 5. See, here's the thing about Perkins, too, for those of y'all who are saying, like, what I look for with Perkins is, like, is he impacting the game in a lot of ways? 5 tackles, 3 solo, had a sack, 1.5 TFLs. Like, that's kind of the thing that I want from Perkins. I don't need Perkins to have 15 tackles. And I think a lot of times, again, I'm not like training my eye on Perkins on every single play, but something else that I noticed is like they were convinced they were not going to let Perkins beat him like he did last year. And there were so many times last night where if Perkins was lined up on the right, it was like immediately the action went to the left. So in that respect, I think they're like, we're just not going to let 4 beat us. Last week in State, Perkins had a great game. 4 tackles, a sack, a pass defended, just had a quarterback hit. Like, just, you're impacting the game in multiple ways, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe up to the channel. Von Bluesman, good morning. Glad we won. A lot of positives. We're improving. Eric Clapton Crossroads concert playing live in LA, streaming available. That's a weird drop in. Jones, Watson, Alexander, all out for the Packers. It's why I have a slight lean to the Saints today, man. Hey, buddy. What's the matter? Hey, you want to come say hi to Dad's show? Drew. No. Christopher Guidry, our secondary will be Achilles here when it really matters. But Christopher, the thing is, like, we all knew that. Like, go back and listen to, if you care to, go back and find my practice report, or not just mine, anybody's. I'm saying mine because I'm here. Anybody's practice report from the very first day of fall camp, the very first day. And the thing that was obvious from jump is that these cornerbacks were not good. And so it's why before the season started, I made the point of going to look up how many teams that won, like when teams won the national championship, what did their pass defense rank? And it's why I went through that whole thing of like 2019 LSU's pass defense was 59th. Georgia last year was 52nd. Bama in 2020 was like 70th in pass defense. What do they all have in common? They all were top 10 in the country in offense and scoring. So like you can win with great offense in this modern age of college football. Look at what LSU did yesterday. Like, could it jump up and bite you? It did against Florida State. You had 2 possessions inside the 10 where you came away with no points. It bit you. But can you win at an elite level with a bad secondary? Yes, you can. I'm not saying this team's going to win the national title. I picked them to go to the playoff and win it before the season started. They clearly have holes, but I don't know that there's many teams in America that are going to stop this offense from scoring because they're really good. Brennan Huff, good morning. Michael Hoffman, what's up? John Doucette, is Nuss our quarterback next year as Brian Kelly hit the portal? No, I mean, Nuss will be the starter going into next year. It'll be interesting. Well, I'll put it to you this way. I think you always look and say year to year who hits the portal. So there's always an asterisk to say, okay, well, who hits the portal? I mean, just like before last season, I mean, sometimes the thing that's forgotten about last year is that the assumption was that it was Miles Brennan's team. And Miles Brennan was the fan favorite. And Brian Kelly looked around at what he had with Brennan and with Nussmeier and Walker Howard and was like, and Jaden Daniels hit the portal, was like, I got these guys that have started a combined 3 games, or I can go get a guy that's been a 3-year starter. And so he went and got Daniels. So I think there's that component of it. Like, does next year's version of Sam Hartman hit the portal, and can you go get him? If so, you go get him and have a competition like you did when you brought in Daniels. But I don't know that that's a likely scenario. Let's see. Go Tigers. Brian Wynn, good morning. David Woodard, I agree. USMC Houdat. We have the pieces for that D-line to pressure the quarterback all game long. House has to see that. Play them players. Cortland, let's see. Your issue in the secondary is Sage is the only guy left that was recruited and signed by the previous staff. So you have a bunch of transfers and young guys signed by this staff. I mean, yeah, you've had to go back-to-back years of heavy port. Like, it would be so, like, look at what happened last night. The best cornerback on the field last night was Dwight McGlothern. He used to play at LSU, transferred to Arkansas. What if Dwight McGlothern had stayed at LSU? Anyway. I mean, it's water under the bridge now, but it's true. Like, when Ricks and McGlothern left, it put you in a lurch. If Ricks and McGlothern had stayed last year, you wouldn't have had to go into the portal, and you could have started rebuilding last year with young guys and carried that into this year. And you'd have McGlothern back and all. But But they didn't. So you had to go portal with a bunch of seniors last year, played well, but then you had to hit the reset button again. So, anyway, that's what it is, man. Who's coaching the DBs right now? So Robert Steeples is the cornerbacks coach, and Kerry Cooks is the safeties coach. Devin Kelly, Matt, I'm not a complainer. The only real criticism I have was the end of the game sequence with the timeouts, but his DBU dead at LSU. Did it die with Corey Raymond, wasn't retained. Biggest Brian Kelly blunder. Devin, I would say for sure that's the biggest staff mistake he's made, was not retaining Corey. And he brought Kerry Cooks in. Kerry's with him at Notre Dame. And, I'll tell you, I know for a fact that Corey didn't even have the opportunity to stay. So, yes, that's the biggest staff blunder. Look, we could say 1A, 1B with Greg McMahon, right? Look at how bad special teams were last year under Polian. Now, the flip side of it is you got a better offensive coordinator, Dan Brock over Jake Peets, undeniable. Matt House over Durante Jones. And I know what y'all are going to say about Matt House, but Matt House, I thought, made chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what last year and is doing what he can with the hand he's dealt this year. Retained Brad David on the offensive line. Brought in Cortez Hankton, the coach receivers. Cortez came from Georgia. Everywhere else, he upgraded the staff. But I think the two spots were cornerback with your DBs with Raymond and special teams, not retaining McMahon. I think those are the two where you can look back. And we said at the time, I remember T-Bob and I were doing Scone and T, and we did this when they announced the staff. We did a side-by-side, position by position, Ogeron's last staff, Kelly's first staff, and said, okay, where are they better, where are they not? And literally every position they were better, except DBs, special teams. And that's kind of played out that way. Kelly Gandy, at that point in the game, 4th and 18 meant nothing to Arkansas. They would have gone for it. So the situation that Kelly's talking about, LSU's up, this is on the Perkins roughing. So LSU's up 31-24. Arkansas gets the ball with 9:43 to play in the game. They drive down to the LSU 14. LSU gets a TFL. Then Arkansas has a delay of game. So it's 2nd and 18 back at the 22. They throw an incomplete pass. So it's 3rd and 18. And you get the incomplete pass in the right back of the end zone. And that's when Perkins was flagged with the roughing. The point is, at that point in the game, you've got LSU got the ball back with 5:06 after. So the next play after the roughing was the touchdown in the middle of the end zone where the tight end was wide open. At that point, you've got 5:06. So if you're Sam Pittman, your decision is, do I kick the field goal with what would have been about 5.5 minutes at that point? Let's just call it 5:06. Do you kick the field goal to bring it within 4 and try to get a stop, or do you go for it on 4th and 18 from the 22? 5 minutes to go. Do you think you can get a stop? Now, they didn't, and they couldn't up until that point, so maybe they do go for it. But if you don't get it at that point, I guess LSU got the ball at the 22. You still need a touchdown, but any LSU points there puts the game away. So he would have had a tough decision to make on if he would have gone for it on 4th and 18 or kicked the field goal to bring it within 4. What would have done? I'm not going to say 4th and 18 meant nothing. Because you could have gotten a field goal to make it a 4-point game. You get a stop, you go score a touchdown, you win it. Go Tigers. Let's see, is Harris playing? Yeah, Denver Harris started. Welch was recruited and signed by Coach O. Him and Ryan are the only ones left. Cortland, good morning. Number 14 looked pretty good to me. Talking about Andre. I thought Andre Sam played with a lot of emotion. He was good against the run last night. He came up with a pick. I mean, I don't think Andre Sam was your problem last night, for whoever said that. Jesse Brown, I don't think the problem in the secondary is the players. I think it's the coaching. Jack Hunt wasn't the most talented, but he was coached well. These players don't know what to do. I mean, Jason, did you just point out like the only white guy defensive back that you can remember from the last 20 years? Okay. Let's go back to the Florida State game. Keon Coleman's first touchdown. Zy Alexander and Andre Sam were both bracketed on him. They weren't playing bracket coverage, but they were both there. He breaks a tackle from Zy Alexander and runs past Andre Sam. Breaks 2 tackles and scores. The coach had them both in the right position. They couldn't make a play against a guy that's going to be a first-round draft pick. That's not coaching. That's the player. Erica? Hang on one second. Sorry. Erica? Oh, I didn't know if you were up. Sorry. I heard something in there. I didn't know if that was him. Second Keon Coleman touchdown in that game. Major Burns was there with him in the end zone. Kind of a jump ball. And Major Burns got mossed. Third touchdown. Back left corner. Deuce Chestnut in coverage. Keon Coleman had 2 yards of separation and caught the touchdown. Talk about Grambling. Denver Harris got mossed by a kid from Grambling. Front left corner of the end zone. I don't know, Jason, why you think the problem is the coaching. Brother, there is nobody in that secondary. Nobody. Right now. That's a draftable player. Nobody. I mean, you and I and all of us are so incredibly spoiled by the fact that every year LSU had first-round draft picks at cornerback. Your guys were always better than theirs. And it didn't matter who you were playing, your guys were just better. And so because your guys, so this is the adjustment LSU's made, because your guys aren't better and can't play man, they're playing a lot of soft zone. And the concept is, okay, we're going to play soft zone, and you can find the soft spots in the zone, and you can find open receivers and catch it, but then you got to tackle. And you have to make, the concept is, I'm going to make you go 8, 10, 12, 15 plays, little bits at a time. And you're not going to drop a pass or have a penalty or, misfire on a ball. And that's a tough thing to do, right? Is to put together those long, sustained drives without having the penalty, the thing that puts you behind the sticks, all that sort of stuff. You making the mistake. So, that's how you have to play it. You were just playing last night against a guy that is an elite quarterback that has the Arkansas record for touchdowns accounted for in a career and is awesome. Against Mississippi State last week, you were much better because you pressured Will Rogers, and he didn't have a great day. Next week you're going to Ole Miss, and Jackson Dart ain't great. The Ole Miss receivers ain't great. Lane Kiffin's a good coach, and he'll scheme some dudes open, and they'll make plays. But the offense you played last night is much better than what you're going to play next week. Same goes for Auburn. Same goes for Bama. I'm trying to think of the Florida, Graham Mertz, A&M, Connor Wigman, Max Johnson. I mean, some of those receivers from A&M worry me. You played good offense last night, man. Without Rocket Sanders, too. But Jason, anyway, back to your point. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you can argue at this point. And I'm the last guy in the world that ever wants to criticize college athletes. Sometimes to a fault where listeners, viewers, whatever, don't know why I won't be critical of players. And it's hard for me to be critical of a college player because I still understand that most of them are just 18 to 20-year-old young people that don't have a future in football, no matter the fact that they're a scholarship player at LSU, this or that. Like, objectively, man, there's nobody in that secondary that's even a draftable player. Like, Zy Alexander's not getting drafted. Deuce Chestnut, Andre Sam, Major Burns, none of those guys are NFL draft picks. I mean, my God, dude, there was years where Ron Brooks was your nickel, and that guy was a draft pick who played a long time in the league. Like, I mean, you're starting a transfer from Southeastern. You're starting a transfer from Marshall. You're at DBU, Syracuse. Morning, Matt. Jair Alexander also inactive today. Saw that. Saints better capitalize. Man, say it again. I picked the Saints today, 23-20, with very little confidence, but it's mostly because I think the Saints defense is great, and the Packers are very, very, very shorthanded today. Down 2 offensive linemen, down Aaron Jones, down Christian Watson, Jair Alexander. I like Saints, 23-20. Sage Ryan is the only DB left by Corey. Why does he get the blame for the situation? Corey? I don't think Corey gets the blame. I think the blame is not retaining Corey. Like, that's the point that most people, I think, y'all tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the point most of you are making, and I agree, is that Brian Kelly didn't retain Corey Raymond. Because if you had retained Corey Raymond, you very likely keep Dwight McGlothern. Eli Ricks would have been interesting because Eli wanted NIL opportunities, and he had none. And his thing was he was a 5-star number 1 corner in the country, and he had 0 NIL deals. So I went to Bama and got NIL deals. Anyway. Oh, man. Oof. Could Corey come back? I would never say never, but I don't know what that would take. You see, like, I'm not going to judge the secretary. They fixed the talent issues left behind by Raymond. Corey Raymond didn't leave you an issue. The issue is the guys left. Dwight McGlothern and Elias Ricks left. And, I mean, what are you talking about? Where is Eli? Ricks made the Eagles. Ricks went undrafted, was signed by Philly and made the team. Ivan Salazar, if we do not get a whole lot better on our D-line, Max Johnson, the Aggies will have a field day. It's funny, so now it's Max Johnson and the Aggies because until, halftime yesterday was Connor Wigman and the Aggies. Now people are concerned about Max Johnson. Let's see. Would have retained Andre Carter from 2021. Dude's D-line held Alabama to 6 rushing yards that year. Raymond could take 3 and 4 stars, turn them into top draft picks. Cortland, Jacob, why are we being so nostalgic over a coach that left you in a bad position to be with? Cortland, you're kind of missing the point here, man. Corey didn't have the opportunity to stay, and he didn't leave you in a bad position. Everybody left. Like, when he left, they all left. I don't. You're Cortland. You're missing it here, brother. Like, and Zachary said he poisoned it where the DBs transferred out. He didn't he was the reason they came to play. They came to play for him. And then you had a super toxic situation, man, where you changed defensive coordinators 3 years in a row. I mean, you went from Aranda to 1 year of Bo Pelini to 1 year of Durante, and then obviously a new head coach, new DC. I mean, you forget how unstable everything around here was. Is that flooded in Arizona? Or is it just like a pond? It's just like a pond. Anyway. I don't know where this narrative has come, man. That's surprising to me that this many of you believe. Do that many people believe that narrative? Brian Kelly didn't retain Corey Raymond. He had no option to stay. A lot of guys who came to play for Corey left, and LSU was a dumpster fire, man. You had 4 DCs in as many years. You went back-to-back 500 seasons. You had off-the-field issues. So you're bringing in a new head coach as well. Why is that blame for many of you going to Corey Raymond? I don't get. I'm lost on this. Why? I mean, people wonder why Max Johnson left. Max Johnson left because LSU was a disaster. I mean, he comes here. It's the COVID year. That in and of itself was crazy. You play 3 different quarterbacks that year. He commits to one staff. Ensminger retires. Then you bring in Peets. He starts playing. He gets benched for almost scapegoated for what was going on. He gets benched for a game, for a half, or the game against Arkansas that LSU lost in overtime that Nussmeier played, and you scored 13 points or 10 points, whatever it was. Then they go back to him, and then Peets is fired. So you have a new OC. So you'd have 3 OCs in as many years. On his second head coach, he was His dad had played at Florida State where Jimbo was. So Jimbo was now at A&M. They had that relationship, and so he made a decision to leave and go where it was what he felt was a more stable situation. I'm perplexed by it. I think maybe what's happening is a lot of LSU fans have forgotten just how toxic it was for those 2 years around this program. Anyway. All right. Let's see. See if there's anything. Why did McLaughlin choose Arkansas? That puzzles me. Unless he's from there. Does Arkansas have good DB coach? I don't see it. I don't know why he picked Arkansas. I haven't talked to him, and I don't know. I've never asked anybody close to the situation why he picked Arkansas. But I'm with you. Weird. Payphone 86, put the program in a bad spot. Last year was miraculous considering where it was left in 2021. That's true. Cortland, what narrative? You had 2 DBs on your roster. They both left. Why can't we be upset our DB room was empty? Again, okay. All right. First of all, do I actually want to go this deep dive into something? You know what? I don't want to do it right now. I'll revisit this because I don't want to spend the time right now to go through a 5-year history of LSU's defensive back room in this moment right now and explain why it is where it is. But roster management is a huge part of the conversation, and that goes back to the head coach, because ultimately the head coach decides who gets scholarships and what positions they're allocated when there was still a 25-man hard cap, which no longer exists. And that's another reason why things have changed as far as roster management. But Cortland, if you're just pegging LSU's issues in the secondary today on Corey Raymond, Corey's the one thing you had going for. He was the guy kids came to play for. Like, if you think that's the reason that they're in the situation they're in right now, that's completely misguided. Like, completely misguided. Anyway. Right. Anything else? Appreciate y'all for being here. Please smash that like button if you would. If you're there on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Spurge, help me understand why separating coaching responsibilities between corners and safeties is a good thing. Spurge, I tend to agree. I know Ryan Clark explained it one time, is to say that's akin to like if you had an offensive line coach and you had one person coaching the tackles and one person coaching the guards. You need them all to work together in unison. The flip side of that is that's what they did whenever they won the national championship, because Bill Bush was on staff and Bill Bush was coaching safeties and Corey was coaching the corners. Now, that was something that Corey didn't like. He wanted to coach all the defensive backs together, but it worked in 2019. So I think you just find a way to make it work. I don't know if that makes sense or if that's a good enough answer, but you know, kind of how it goes. Right. Charlie Cavell, but Oshron was one of us. Jason Duvall, is Daniels intentional underthrowing his receivers or his arm taking a while to warm up? Look, he was, last week against Mississippi State, he was great. Last night in the first half, he was objectively not good. From the first pass of the game, which was low and away, to the third down play to Neighbors, where it was a low ball. Neighbors probably should have caught it. It was not a great pass, but probably could have caught it. We've seen Malik make tougher catches. The two deep balls, obviously, on the third drive where he underthrew Neighbors, and then Thomas was not good. But then as you got rolling in the second half, Daniels was really good, you know. But first half, he was not good in the first half. Sonny Warbington, seems like it was a lot of Johnny Manziel going on for Arkansas. Is it just me, or do the Arkansas games always have high level of crazy? The Arkansas games are always way closer than comfort, man. Too close for comfort is how I should say it. And I mean, look, I'm all last week I sat here and I told y'all LSU didn't care about the game on Friday after Thanksgiving. They didn't. Then it got moved to the week after Bama, which, you know, emotionally was a tough spot for LSU because you're always going to have a letdown. It's true. So now you're playing in September, and it's just a benign Saturday. And the reality is it doesn't matter when you play this game, you're always going to get Arkansas's best shot, so you better be ready for it. And that the stadium in the first half was kind of dead, but once you got into the second half and it was a game and you needed the stadium to show up, they were, and Arkansas got a bunch of 11 penalties in the game for Arkansas, and I think the crowd made an impact and all that stuff. And I think it's just a reality, man. You're always going to get that team's best shot. So, let's see. Stephen Walzak, good morning. When can we expect an update on Chad Johnson's bet about Derek Carr-Stat? So, Stephen, we've been doing that every week. So every week. The last 2 weeks, we're doing a graphic updating the stats as they go. So suffice to say, it's not going well for your boy Ocho. I mean, Derek Carr has 1 touchdown pass on the season and 2 picks. And Ocho predicted he's pacing good for the yardage, which I think he said was 4,700 yards. But he said 38 touchdowns and 6 picks. Well, he's on pace right now for like 8 touchdowns and 17 picks. That's obviously that'll change, but he's not pacing great right now for those two. So suffice to say, I think we're going to end up with Ocho in Baton Rouge, doing a show, which would be a lot of fun. All right, y'all. Go Tigers. Mike Hardy-all, KJ Jefferson would have beaten us last year. Maybe, Mike, but I also believe, and there's no way to know this definitively, just like there's no way to know definitively what you just said. I believe that LSU, once they knew KJ wasn't going to play in the game, LSU completely changed its strategy and went to just keep away. It was basically like big brother putting his hand on little brother's head while little brother was flailing. You just knew they were never going to get close enough because they just weren't going to move the ball with Malik Hornsby, and so you just had to go in there and not turn the ball over and not make giant mistakes, and you were going to win. So I think if KJ had played, the whole dynamic of that game would have changed. Ludwig Washington's why let Corey go? I never understood that decision. That was Brian Kelly's decision. He brought Kerry Cooks with him from Notre Dame and brought in a staff. It's every coach's prerogative to bring in their own staff. I mean, Spurge, that spread was ridiculous. Can't bet for against LSU or the Saints, but 18.5 was tempting. I know. I didn't play it, but if I would have played it, I would have absolutely taken I would have taken the points. I think it went off at 17.5, but anyway. All right. Let's see. We might be just about done here. Cortland, you're on one this morning, bro. Oh, let's see. Both teams couldn't stop the run. LSU, let me look at the final stats last night. I thought LSU did an okay job against the run. KJ busted a 25-yarder, but A.J. Green did nothing in the running game last night. A.J. Green ended up with 3 carries for no yards. Dominique Johnson, 2 carries for 3 yards. Max Fletcher had 1 for 8. Rashad Dubinion, I guess, was their leading rusher, 15 for 78. KJ had 16 for 48. KJ busted that 125-yarder on their it was their second possession. It was 3rd and 10, and he busted one for 25 yards up the middle. But aside from that, you held him pretty much in check running the ball. So they ran it 37 times for 137, average of 3.7. I thought LSU's run defense was fine. I mean, I'm not telling you it was dominant or anything, but I thought it was fine. The problem was you played soft zone, and KJ is a good quarterback and consistently found the receivers. The one that was the backbreaker was the 59-yarder when you were up 8. I mean, you're up 24-16. They got 2nd and 20. Back-to-back false starts. Swinson hits KJ. Looks like a fumble. So it's 2nd and 20. KJ runs. You got 3rd and 6. And then they hit the 59-yarder where Zy Alexander left his man. That was the backbreaker, man. Anyway. All right, y'all. Let's wrap this thing up. By the way, it's 11:20. I got to go listen to for Jimmy Ott's Football Sunday picks. We're going to get out of here. Please smash the like button. Thanks for being here. Subscribe up to the channel on YouTube. And as always, shout out to Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, and Hudco. Need an orthopedist. Brock, the after hours clinic is open today. Nights and weekends as an alternative to the ER. And the pinned comment in the chat, y'all, is the Hudco Google review link. Again, I'll say this again. For Hudco, Hudco's got 2 offices, Bossier and Baton Rouge. And the Google reviews used to all go to just the same. They were under the same thing. Well, Google split them. And I don't know why, but now, so all the Google reviews now are only for the Bossier office, and so, which is fine, which is great, but the Baton Rouge office basically has no Google reviews anymore. So if you would take a quick second, click that link and just leave Hudco a 5-star Google review. I would really, really appreciate it. So we kind of build that back up. So anyway, y'all have an awesome day. Who dat, and go Tigers, and who dat, and all that stuff. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you. Peace. Jimmy Ott's Football Sunday. Go listen for the picks right now. God, we did a 1 hour and 40-minute show.